What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Plant Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Willie Rodriguez, and before we get into this episode, I want to ask you guys, how are you doing? I commend you guys for taking the time to listen to the podcast because the green industry, not everybody wants to work all day in the hot sun and then continue listening to industry-based stuff. People have other interests. So I commend you guys for staying faithful and listening to the episodes, gaining value and implementing it into your daily lives, your daily routine, in your entrepreneurship journey, pushing forward regardless of what's going on. Today's episode, this intro's gotta be one of the toughest ones I've ever done because how do you introduce Harrell's? It's a company that started in 1941, third generation owner, now CEO running it, Jack Harrell's Jr. the third. His nickname is J3. How do you introduce a company like this? They gather up raw ingredients from across the world. They have factories here in the United States with over 27 stores to fulfill all your needs. Selling products like Palmateer fertilizer, which is used immensely down here when it comes to the horticulture side of growing plants with growers because people feel the confidence in using that controlled release fertilizer. They have doctors and scientists on board, guys. This is a massive company. They also got into the soil space, digging peat. So they have plenty of peat for all your needs. They also sell chemicals for pesticides. They specialize in products for golf turf, horticulture, turf and landscape, sports turf, specialty ag. So just think about all the different avenues that they touch. What I love most about Harrell's is their core values. Their core values are serve, honor, and glorify God. Take care of people, growing our financial strengths. If you go on their website, you can see they have a video that is just like a circle of life. This is the formula that they have implemented into their company that really makes things work for their environment. They also integrated ESOP, which is Employee Stock Ownership Plan. So every single employee that's there gets a piece of the pie. How cool is that? They put their employees first because if you don't put your employees first, how are you even going to go and try to take care of your customers? And one of their amazing goals is making sure that their customers are successful. So they have so many different things like seminars, videos, and just so much information that you can gather just on their website. And all of their staff, when it comes to sales, are experienced. They go through training. They understand what you need. And if you have a question, they are there to answer that question. We interviewed Dr. Aaron Palmateer, which is a representative they sent to do the podcast with us that has an extensive background in plant science. It was so amazing interviewing this individual and all the knowledge that he has. Did you know that nicotine is also used in pesticides? I never knew that. So it's something just so interesting. All the different things we touched about. We go through his career and how he got such a great position at Harrell's. And then we dive in deep into what Harrell's is and just everything that he knows about the different chemicals and different products that they sell, the fertilizers. We also touch on pepper thrip, what they know about the pepper thrip. So it's just a very informational, awesome, packed episode. So hold on tight, guys. I'm honored to introduce Aaron Palmateer with Harrell's. Enjoy the episode, guys.
Are you ready to grow? The Plant Movement with Willie Rodriguez of A's Ornamental Nursery in sunny South Florida is the podcast for those in the nursery business. Garden centers, landscapers, power growers, and plant enthusiasts. Willie is a passionate leader in the plant movement and has helped others grow their business into multi-million-dollar companies. This show will save you time, money, and headaches through top-notch education and by connecting you to experts in the industry. Let's grow. Here's your host, Willie Rodriguez.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Plant Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Willie Rodriguez, and as always, we're bringing people on that tie into the industry. And today we have a very, very special company and guest that is coming on the show today. It is Harrell's. For those of you that don't know, Harrell's is a fertilizer and chemical company that do so much more than that, and they have some of the best values out of any company that I've ever heard that make them stand out amongst their competition. Today we have Dr. Aaron Palmateer here to speak about Harrell's, and he's going to give us some of his background on how he got to work with Harrell's. because you gotta be somebody to work at Harrell's in the position that he's in. I'm excited for today's episode, guys. There's gonna be a lot of information here today, and we're gonna have everything in the description down below. Regardless of where you're listening to it, you'll get all the information that we spoke about today. But Doctor, thank you for coming, man.
Hey, Willie, great to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and so I'll just start briefly with my background. So,
yeah, talk to us. How'd you get into
so I'm
this
originally from Illinois. I ended up getting kind of interesting. I started the whole thing in pre-medicine, and I took as an elective a soil microbiology course in college.
Okay.
And that kind of opened the door for me in my interest in soil science. So I got a bachelor's and then a master's degree in plant and soil science. And I was very much involved in teaching at that stage. I was a teaching assistant for a plant breeding course and then also a crop science class.
Here in Florida?
No, this was actually in Illinois. So this was in Southern Illinois University.
Okay.
And then when I finished my master's, it was working on nematode populations and looking at plant genetic interactions with nematodes. And that brought me into the plant pathology world. And so I moved on and I got my PhD from Auburn University in Auburn, Alabama. And it was from there that I saw an announcement to join a team of scientists in South Florida looking at alternatives to methyl bromide, so fumigation for vegetable production.
Okay.
That's what actually brought me here. I saw this guy, this researcher. It was Dr. Randy Pletz. He's actually the tropical fruit pathologist. Was wearing this like Hawaiian shirt, and I just thought it looked so cool. That it was so.
And he's working.
Yeah,
he's working in the tropical shirt.
So distant from growing
corporate,
from Illinois and also from corporate where I just thought, man, that's so cool. And so one thing led to another. I came down and joined this team and was on the job there for just a little over a year when actually a faculty position opened at the Tropical Research and Education Center. What the position was for a plant pathologist, and the Department of Plant Pathology is actually on the main campus in Gainesville. And long story short, I joined faculty. 13 years into it, I was presented an opportunity to go to work for Bayer. And so really what I did with the University of Florida as a plant pathologist, so I was in charge of the diagnostic clinic, which is kind of the interface to the local industry. And so on a day-to-day basis, I would look at disease samples, insect pests, weeds, you name it. We saw, this area is really the gateway to not only plant movement. I think it's roughly 85% of plant material coming into the United States comes through the port of Miami.
Wow.
And
85%.
Yeah, and that's even, and it's actually probably even a little more than that. It's pretty amazing
For the nation?
For the entire nation.
Wow. You guys heard that?
So
no wonder we're so busy at the port.
It's and so you think about that massive amount of plant material that's coming in through the port, just what it takes to be able to screen that material to make sure that there's no pests, pathogens coming in. And so it's actually less than 2% of that massive amount of plant material coming in that actually gets screened.
Oh, only 2%.
Because
they can't handle it all.
Can't handle it all.
So there's not enough people to be able to do that.
That's exactly right. One of the things I would work closely with the Animal Plant Health Inspection Service in that role as a diagnostician in the diagnostic lab. We would share information with them, but then also, just working down here and seeing new things. Like every year it was something different. I mean, we're in an area that's just, well, first, we grow plant species from all over the world.
Being in South Florida.
In South Florida. So there's just so much with the warm temperature, the 12-month growing season, the storms that could potentially move pests and pathogens. We're like the epicenter for a plant pathologist.
And you saw a lot of that here at UF, correct?
Oh man, yeah. So it just working. So on the diagnostic side was one aspect of my position, but the other side was disease management. Was my program really, that was the foundation of my program. And so what my goal was is anytime something new came in, we'd want to find out, how can we control it?
And since you're there, you're basically the epicenter, the hub of all these pests that show up to get screened and see what they are and how to treat it.
Absolutely.
So you had a huge dictionary of knowledge.
And then we'd set out on all these fungicide screening trials, bactericide screening trials, and then so what had happened is doing this work over many years, when Bayer, when they decided to go direct in the ornamental industry, that was actually in 2016, they were looking for somebody that had experience working with plant health in the ornamental world, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
You fit the bill.
And they came to me in a big way. So I'm currently a courtesy professor at UF. So I did, by no way did I cut ties with the university.
Okay.
I'm still very close with the university. But I went to Bayer, it was not that long ago, decided to sell their greenhouse, golf, nursery, the whole ornamental horticulture side of the business, along with pest control, and they sold it to private equity.
Okay.
And so, when things get sold, things get shook up.
Yes.
But before that happened, I was given an opportunity by actually somebody I worked with closely at Bayer that had moved to the CPRO Corporation.
Okay.
And I ended up moving. And it's one of the things I found is when you get into this industry side, things move a lot faster. And I know, it's a much faster pace. There's actually a lot more opportunities and doors that open for you in the corporate side. And just on this side, the business side of the world.
Especially when you're passionate about something, people can see that. So then when you don't know who's thinking about what or what the next move is for the company, but they might be making a move, and they're like, "Who would be perfect? Let's go with him."
100%. And so the opportunity with CPRO came up, and then to fast forward, I was only there a little over a year, but Jack Harrell, J3 we call him, Jack
J3
Harrell III,
Junior.
J3 came, and he came in and basically was looking for a director of agronomy for the horticulture business. One of the things about Harrell's is that they do very well in the fertilizer soil world in our side of the business. It's really interesting because the turf side of the business, they just do tremendous in plant health, in selling fungicides, bactericides,
for the grass,
herbicides. And so there's room to grow the business in that side of our industry. Okay. And so really what their vision was to bring me on and to help with our sales staff to learn more about the chemistry side and how best to position the products that Harrell's has to sell. And so that's kind of where my role and my fit is at Harrell's. So
it's very important because if you're a salesperson and someone shows up with an issue and you don't have the answer, and then there's other people that they can reach out to, you want to train them properly to know exactly what is available, what can be done,
100%,
how to speak.
100%, yeah. And then you also, I think you had mentioned just Harrell's as a company. One of the things that really was eye opening for me is just that Jack Harrell, the foundation, he's a Christian man. He's got, just in integrity, and sets just a really strong foundation for strong principles that really was attractive. And so one of the things about Harrell's is that they're very much they've grown in size. I want to say we're close to like 500 employees. So it's very much corporate, but it's not corporate.
And these are employees that are not a minimum wage, guys. These are employees. These are real big company nationwide at this point.
Absolutely. And one of the things that happened in recent times is that it became employee owned.
Yeah, that was one of the things. So our ESOP is called the Employee Stock Ownership Plan, is what that's called, ESOP, and that's where you guys are now part of the business as an employee.
100%. And so, you get a piece of the pie. It just gives you that extra motivation to do good things for the company, because it's almost like you're working for yourself, because you're going to benefit from success. And it also, just the fundamentals, the day to day, you think twice about, spending company money, because it's really like spending your own money.
Yeah. And your friend that's sitting next to you, your coworker or whoever.
100%.
No, yeah, the values is what really shook me when I was just reading into Jack Harrell Jr., which is the third generation. His great grandfather started this company in 1941 in Florida. And their core values are to serve, honor, and glorify God. That's number one. Number two is take care of people. And number three is growing our financial strength, or their financial strength. And that is their circle that continues. You put God first, you take care of people, and you make sure you're nice and strong for the company. Those are great things. Something else I've written down here is putting their employees first over their customers. Because if you don't have happy employees, how are you going to have happy customers? Because we've all been somewhere that the staff is upset or nasty and bad attitude or whatever it might be. Anywhere, somewhere, you go to a restaurant, you go anywhere. And you could tell that the employees are not happy. So that motto really stands out as well. And understanding their customers' needs, they'll do anything. They want to be a part of what you're building. At the end of the day, they want to make sure that you are successful as a business that is using their products. Make sure you're educated. They do seminars. They do so many things that Harrold's offers just for the community in general. They built their own community. After so many years.
Yeah, 100%. It's just it's a great company. I like everything that they stand for. And one of the things I learned when I started doing my homework about joining Harrell's is, like you said, everybody I've come across is happy, and that speaks volumes for and then. Yeah, it's just it's a great organization to be a part of, and with from a standpoint of resources, Harrell's is they're well known for Polyon.
Okay, Polyon, for you guys that don't know, is a slow release fertilizer.
It's a controlled release fertilizer.
Sorry.
Yep, and slow release is fine.
We call it slow release too.
100% slow, because that's the whole ticket is. And so I'll just speak briefly about Polyon, because it's fascinating. So the technology, you can think of it as those fertilizer, those coated prills. You can think of this as almost like brewing tea. So one of the neat things, most of the fertilizers that we use are water soluble. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the unique thing about Polyon is that it's activated by moisture, but it's actually released on temperature. So prime example, if you take a bag of tea, a tea bag, and you throw it in cold water, and you take a tea bag and you throw it in hot water, and you watch the color change in that water, what you'll see is, of course, the cold tea bag's just going to sit there. It's going to take a long time before you see any percolation or any evidence of the tea diffusing
coming out.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It's called osmotic diffusion. It's basically moving from a drier condition to a wet condition. Okay? And so what happens with the tea bag and the hot water is it's motivated by the temperature, and it speeds up the release. And so the cool thing about Polyon...
So that's regular fertilizer, like a 12-6-8 that people toss on top that lasts 30 days. It runs out quicker.
It runs a lot quicker. So what's happened there is that when they're coating the fertilizer, they're using a lighter coat. And so we can go anywhere from... We've got fertilizer that can be 2 months all the way to a full year.
Yes.
And so it's just a thicker coat. But the cool thing is that it's releasing, plants, as you know, they grow faster when the temperature is warmer,
Mm-hmm.
and then they slow down when temperature is cooler.
Mm-hmm.
So the fertilizer actually responds to the needs of the plant, and it really is fascinating.
So that's crazy. That's the Polyon product that you guys have.
That is the Polyon. That's the green. Anywhere you see that green,
The green pellets, guys.
that's their patented. And one of the cool things also that we have the potential also to what's called sparge, but we can actually add chemistry to the fertilizer. So, for example, I don't know if we put bifenthrin, Talstar, on fertilizer. So in places where they're on the edge of the quarantine, where they don't want red imported fire ants, it's very important to be putting bifenthrin or Talstar into, whether they incorporate it into the soil.
So that's a fertilizer.
We have
with
it
an
on the
insecticide.
fertilizer.
Mixed together. Because
So
Talstar, guys, is an insecticide in a granular form. They also have it in liquid. So you can coat it with that as well.
we can coat it, and in that way it's kind of like an all-in-one.
That's awesome. I didn't know about that.
And we're advancing that whole process. So since we have the machine, we have the capability to do it. So we can work with chemical manufacturers to bring new insecticides, fungicides on the fertilizer.
Wow. And guys, for those of you that have used Harrell's products, when you see those little green balls or any fertilizer, I just think about the process of creating that all the way down to where the mineral's at in the world. Okay, because they bring stuff in globally from everywhere, all over the world, to be able to make those beautiful little green pellets that you guys use and put them on your plants. Or if you're a landscaper and you put it out before you plant, while you're planting plants, a hedge or plants or whatever, it's always good to put fertilizer. That way your customer's happy. And if you're using Harrell's products, not only are they great, but you know that it's from a company that has done their due diligence and has reinvested in their company, reinvested in their employees, just reinvested in so much to make their brand stand out and make you shine. And I think about all of that when I look at the bag. I'm like, man, this stuff came from all over the world to be in this bag. And it's crazy.
100%. And it's the big plant is in Sylacauga, Alabama, so it's done here in the United States.
Okay.
Like the whole process.
Everything's shipped in from all different parts of the world, and it goes to Alabama.
The components come from all over. So all the and
you also have a plant. There's also a plant in Lakeland, Florida.
Lakeland, yep. And Lakeland is the headquarters.
The headquarters
for Harrell's. And then one of the things, my first introduction to Polyon is when I had some palm trees that had ground cover all around the base, and you throw any kind of just run-of-the-mill fertilizer on there, you're going to burn the sensitive plants at the base of the palm. And one of the nice things is you take the coated Polyon, it's so safe, you can throw it on. You don't have to worry about it.
Because it releases very, very slow, little by little.
Slow over time, and so that's one of the nice. It's kind of a very easy product to work with. That's low air.
Low air. Yeah. So just to tell you guys, so if you are servicing somebody or you're growing plants and they're off color right now, you can use the Polyon, but it's not gonna take effect as fast as if you use something else as a kickstart, and then the Polyon will keep it going. But you can green it up quicker using other products because the Polyon is coated to last longer. And it releases slower.
100%. And then the other thing that Harrell's, I think a unique feature is the custom blending. So we can actually go in and create a custom blend to fit your plant needs.
Wow.
So, and that's it's pretty amazing that the capability to be able to do that. And it also, I think it gives that personal interaction with the grower. If you've got your own recipe that you're like using, and we have 4 dedicated reps just to Miami-Dade County alone, which I know you know Julio.
Yes, I know all of them. They're great guys, man. They're a fun. I have so much fun with them. I haven't seen them in a while, but these guys are great, man.
And they're very well versed.
They know it all.
Oh yeah. So they can definitely work with anybody who's interested in learning more about Polyon or any of the Harrells.
And that's just for Dade County, but there's people listening from all over the world. So you guys can call their headquarters, and you have a question, they'll figure it out.
100%.
And you guys ship probably in boxes, small orders? to different states?
Ship all over the country. My responsibility is I go nationally.
Yeah.
And so we have 21 dedicated reps just to horticulture.
You guys service a lot of different sectors. You guys do the golf course industry, horticulture, turf and landscape, sports turf, and then specialty ag. These are just some of the things that they do, and they also sell soil, and they have so many different things that they do in the service sector.
Absolutely, yeah. We own a peat bog in Avon Park,
okay.
And so we have the capability of definitely of providing soil down here.
For you guys that don't know what peat is, can you just explain to them what peat is?
I mean, peat is basically the organic source of it's extracted. The bog they actually
listen to this,
it,
guys,
and they pull the substrate out. It's you have Canadian peat, you have Florida peat. So of course we have our own source of Florida peat, and the peat essentially is what's providing that high organic matter, the favorable part of the soil mix. That's where the plant's going to be getting the humic and the fulvic acids, the things that really are kind of the healthy component of the soil.
And it's cool that you guys had that, because there was a war on peat not too long ago, because it was just a massive shortage. Yeah, but you guys had your own, so you guys were good.
And we now have a long-term source. I know we can be providing peat for a long time. From Florida, yeah.
These products too with the peat, I also know that you guys supply other industries as well that are also in the horticulture, not just landscape product. I know in the marijuana industry as well.
Yeah. The
soil
whole,
for the peat.
Oh yeah. The whole marijuana and cannabis side. Yep. I have not done much on that side. It's still a learning experience for me.
It's I feel like it's learning for everybody.
100%. Yeah, it's kind of one of the newer phases. But so we are not only a distributor for chemical manufacturers. So basically any kind of product that you'd want to use in our industry, Harrell's will sell that. But then also we have our own proprietary products. We have a couple different product lines. So one is the Protect Max, which are fungicides.
Okay.
And we also have Biomax, which include biologicals and also plant stimulants, probiotics for plants, that sort of line. And then we also have a Spray Max line, which are proprietary like adjuvants. So everything from spreader stickers to more of things that are going to help the fungicide, herbicide, insecticide, whatever it may be, help it be more effective.
Effective.
Yeah. So for example, if you're spraying a fungicide without an adjuvant, you may look at the droplets on the leaf and you'll see visual droplets. But if you add one of these spreader stickers, wetting agents, it's amazing how it'll just diffuse across the leaf surface, and what that's doing is it's helping with the coverage. Second to that is also it's sticking, and it's also providing greater protection.
So like plants. Let's say you have a 10-acre nursery and you're spraying it with a blower, or you're spraying it by hand, and it rains 30 minutes after you apply it. If you didn't put a sticker, you lost it all, and you wasted all that time. If you applied the sticker, some of these stickers, they dry in 15 minutes, 30 minutes. And now you know that at least your plant, the leaf is coated and it's not going to go anywhere. And you didn't waste your time. And the sticker is one of the cheapest products you can buy.
There you go. Yeah.
Stickers are must. If you guys are spraying and you're not applying it with a sticker, you're going to need to get one. So make sure you call your local Harrell's and get your sticker, because that's very essential.
100%.
Just that whole process of learning how to apply it properly too is something that I'm sure you guys, do you know if Harrell's offers any type of know-how or a course or a class or a seminar?
100%. So you can go on the website, and there's all kinds of, Harrell's has a YouTube channel, but there's also a whole educational side for the customers. You can actually log in, and we provide training for CEU credits for applicator license. And but there's a ton of information that's been generated over the years in the archives. Of the Harrell's website.
Think about Harrell's. His great grandfather would have never thought that the company would be what it is today, and they started off fertilizer And now it's just blown up to so many different things, to the point where they're even doing education and just putting everybody first and putting themselves last, and just the whole circle of life, integrating everything.
100%. One thing, Willie, you mentioned that I think is important is that, like, using an adjuvant with your application. Having worked with growers for a long time and pesticide applicators, one of the things that people always complain about is the cost. And this is expensive. So there's a couple things I just want to highlight or point on, and that is that the cost. There's a lot of things that go into why some of these products are expensive, but also the application method, and just the importance of, if you're putting out a product, let's say you're spending anywhere $50 up per 100 gallons for, you want to make sure you're doing it right.
Of course.
And that's where, it's important to make sure you're following the manufacturer's directions on the label.
The labels are very important, guys. I know a lot of people that don't even look at it, but
it's the law too.
Yeah,
it's the legal, and so but it's just so important. And one of the things that I tell, want everybody to understand this, is that especially if you're a customer of Harrell's and you had any question, any doubt how to put that product out, pick up the phone, text, email.
Call your local rep, whoever you purchased it from, and they'll get you all the answers.
Absolutely, because it's just important. You don't want to be wasting your money, because some of what goes into the development of those labels is so important, because there's even environmental conditions where they say, if these particular conditions are present, you need to spray it this rate and this application interval, versus because what they're looking at is they're targeting favorable conditions for whether it's the pest or the pathogen causes the disease. And so it's just there's so much good information, but all the information that goes into generating that label costs money to build that foundation.
Of course.
Everything from when these companies were paying me as a researcher at the University of Florida, but also from inception. So like, a new product. I'll give you an example. There's an insecticide called Altis that was discovered by Bayer, which Bayer is now called Enview in our world. But they actually found a derivative from a plant. So it's got natural origin. Flupyridiferone comes from, I think it's somewhere in Southeast Asia. They found this plant. They discovered that it had insecticidal properties.
Wow.
And so basically, at the discovery level, you got all these scientists. In the case with Bayer, they're over there in Germany in a lab, and they're testing every aspect.
Wow.
And then so you've got all that cost that goes into just the early discovery
it's
stages.
millions and millions and millions.
And then you go from discovery to looking at how does this fit into our world? What does it do? And then once you've figured out what it does and how to use it, then you go to the whole commercialization side of it.
Of creating a product.
There's a ton that goes into that whole process. And the other thing to think about is, in our world, if you're growing an acre of ornamentals and you look at the cost, the value of that acre, in some cases it can be well over $1 million.
Well, depending on where you're growing.
What it is, right? And then you go and you look at an acre of some corn or soybean. I mean, they need 1 million acres to have it's a night and day difference. And so the value it's the liability. If a good company, a manufacturer, stands behind their product, a branded product, and you have a bad experience with it, they're gonna come to the table and they're gonna make it right.
If you guys are enjoying the content that we're putting out here on the Plant Movement Podcast, make sure to subscribe and follow, giving us a 5-star review. It really goes a long way. Also, share it with someone that can benefit from this content. As always, we want to continue connecting you with people in the green industry. And make sure you get in touch if you want to jump on the podcast. Let's go. I've seen that firsthand.
Yeah, and so a lot of that's part of the puzzle behind why our products in the greenhouse nursery industry cost more than
Yeah,
those
than
that are
agriculture,
than
because
in
there are, let's say, ways to cut out the expensive product by using something for agriculture, but it's not going to work the same, and it's actually not supposed to happen. It is illegal, guys. For those of you guys that didn't know, it is illegal, and I'm sure you know because the rep probably told you. It is what it is at the end of the day, and you got to understand, so like if you did come into a situation that you lost half of your crop, they're going to ask you, did you read the label? What did you spray? Oh, I sprayed this. Oh, but that's for corn, and you're doing ornamentals. Oh, negative. We can't back you up. Sorry. How did you apply it? Oh, I put it on a sprayer, and I had Johnny go and do it. All right, beautiful. Incorrect. It was supposed to be with this gun, applied this way, wait X amount of time, apply it again. They're going to back themselves up at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And make sure that they're covered. There's too much money, and just think about that process. Like, just to create one pesticide, it's insane. Just
Millions
the
and
amount
millions of dollars.
Yeah, the amount of work that goes into something before it hits the market.
Yeah.
It's years. It's like medicine. And the fact that they found something that extracted, it's kind of like the venom from a snake. You get bit by a snake, you get the venom, they can make a dose for you that'll take it away, and now you're good to go, back alive. And that's the same thing they did with that plant. So that's interesting that plant research has gotten so deep to that point that they have found, plants that they can extract, insecticide out of pesticide out of.
Yeah, natural. I mean, even, you can even speak to the neonicotinoids, and nicotine being such a phenomenal insecticide because it disrupts.
Nicotine is an insecticide?
Yes. They added a bee box to pesticide labels for pollinator safety, which makes a lot of sense. We don't want to kill our pollinators.
No, at all.
There's a lot of restrictions. So some of the growers that are growing for the big box stores, like the Home Depots, the Lowe's, sometimes they can't even use neonicotinoids. But then in other cases, they can use them, but they have to be labeled. But could you imagine if you use a particular product in your nursery and you're going to go in and label every single plant, that's going out the door? That's an added expense.
That's a really added expense.
Some of the most effective systemic insecticides are these neonicotinoids derived from nicotine, and so they disrupt the nervous system of the insect, of the bug.
Insect.
Yeah, and so highly effective insecticides.
That's crazy.
Yep.
There's so much research, so much science. It's so cool. There's so many parts of this industry, man. This make it so cool. Like I was telling you how diverse me and you are. That you're a doctor and I'm just a plant nursery guy. And we intertwine with each other more than we know. And we need each other at the end of the day. Now that we're talking about this, I want to know what Harrell's has done with the pepper thrip that we have seen that has arrived here and it's blown up, and we're in spring. People are shipping. I've heard horror stories where the plants, they can't send them. They lose thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars because of this wonderful, beautiful little pepper thrip, thrips are common, guys. I don't know how many variants of thrips are around. It's 8 or 10 or 12. But this is a new one that showed up. And they were having trouble finding an insecticide to, take care of the issue. What is Harrell's doing in regards to that, if you could speak on that?
Oh, yeah, great question. Happy to do so. So, one of the first things, of course, when the Florida Department of Ag and Consumer Services, when they put out an announcement that they had the thrip that was potentially going to be regulated.
Mm-hmm.
First thing I did was get word out to our team, and then also provide them with the technical expertise to, everything that's known so far, because there's a lot of unknowns about the thrip in general. But this particular thrips is it's pepper thrip.
Mm-hmm.
So it does go on vegetables, but it's a big problem, especially on gardenias, on mandavillas, on cheflera, diplodenias,
arbicolas.
They're the host range is likely to expand, because with anything new, or new, when I say new. I think it actually first was identified and reported was like in 2020.
Yeah, I read
so
something.
It's been around for a little while. This past year has been tremendous pressure for thrips. One of the things is that we have, as you mentioned, a multitude of thrips species out there. One of the worst things about thrips, and I think that they're most well known for, is that they're often the vector for virus.
Wow.
So like the western flower thrips, for example, is a tremendous vector for tospoviruses. And so not only do you have an insect pest that's damaging the plant, you also have an insect pest that's potentially giving the plant a disease that's fatal, or that they can never cure. Because with viral diseases in plants, there really is no cure. It's all about prevention.
Yeah.
And so Harrell's and our role with this new thrips is that basically to learn as much as we can about how best to control this species. And so that's where the researchers at the University of Florida come into play that are actively doing research. So one of the first things I did was reach out and make sure that we're providing them with products that growers are using, so that we can first and foremost find out, are these products that we have in-house working to control
Are they going to
the
work?
thrips? Are they going to work? And one of the things that to understand is that because I was hearing things right out of the chute. Oh my God, this thrips, we can't control it. Nothing's
working.
It. And I think that was a little bit of a shock, because it was like we had a bomb go off where there was a real high population of thrips. It's very unlikely that a thrips is going to come in and it's going to be resistant to everything. It's just not going to happen. Biology doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so
something's got to attack them.
Something's got to attack them. And so what had happened is, right out of the chute, we learned of some products that are highly effective. So you may have heard of Conserve. The active ingredient is spinosad. So that's one that Conserve has been widely used for thrips down here. UF, the scientists there, determined that it is working very well.
Conserve, guys.
Conserve. Another one that's very good for the nursery side is Expire.
Okay.
Expire has the same active as Conserve, but it also has an additional active, sulfoxaflor, and that's actually related to the neonicotinoids that I was telling you about.
Okay.
It's actually not a neonic, but it's closely related. But that combination, one of the nice things about Expire is that by having two different modes of action in a product, you're minimizing the chance for resistance. And so Conserve by itself is a standalone active, very effective. But if you want to reduce your chances of building resistance, or if you don't have as many options to rotate to different modes of action, you could consider Expire. And then another product that she determined was highly effective is Hachi Hachi. The active ingredient is called tolfin pyrad, and Hachi Hachi, actually one of the modes of action is feeding cessation. So basically, when the thrips comes into contact with the active, it shuts it down from being able to feed. Okay. And then this probably falls into the piece of the puzzle, is when people are saying that they can't get control of the thrips. Well, what's happened is these thrips have been shut down from feeding, but they're not dying right away. Okay. So you're still seeing them there,
crawling around.
They're not damaging your plant. So that's where you have to really understand, how is this product working. So keep that in mind if you do an application, because people
think it's like Raid.
Well, see, that's what it is. Old school contact. The old school mentality was, you see bugs, you spray them, you want to see them die. Okay. Well, some of these newer actives just don't work that way, but they're very good at what they do. And so there's three, and then the other one, Dr. Alexandra at the she's the ornamental entomologist at Treg. She also identified that acephate, so orthene is also very effective.
You can do a mix. You can do a couple of these together with some sticker and make a bomb.
Absolutely. Another one is abamectin. So whether it's Avid or Minx, I think Tecmec is the other. So these products, you definitely want to rotate, but the key because these thrips, the females are the most recognizable stage of the thrips, and you'll see them in the flowers.
Females are in the flowers.
And what they're doing is they're actually feeding on pollen. They're attracted to that pollen, so they get into the flower. But I think the immature stages are what's doing most of the damage to the leaves and the distortion that we see, the scarring, the feeding. Yeah, and the immatures, the younger
ones.
Yeah, and so they're damaging the foliage, buggering up the new growth. And so what's important is you just don't want to get to that stage. So you want to treat healthy young plants preventatively, and then just recognize that if you're doing an application and if you're using something with the feeding cessation like the hachi, that it's not just gonna
take it away on the spot.
No, and I mean, just to give you an example, I've learned a lot about entomology being in a technical role, but my background is plant pathology. But talking about mealybugs, for example, some of these mealybugs can take a month or longer to die.
Wow.
But the feeding and cessation kicks in, within hours. Oh, wow. So they're there, and you see them, and you think you're not controlling them, but it's just taking them a while. It just takes time. So the key, I think the take-home message there is, with any insect and with these insecticides, is to evaluate based on damage. If you may still see bugs, but look at the new growth. If the new growth looks clean, you're not seeing damage, then something's working.
No, wow, I learned so much. So the males and the younger ones are the ones that you might see damaging the bark or stems or leaves. And the more mature females are the ones that are in the flowers.
Yeah, those are where you're seeing. Well, you can get different stages in the flowers. I don't want to. Okay. I don't know. It definitively. Okay. But I do know that, man, I've looked at some gardenias and some diplodenia flowers where I've seen 20, 30 thrips in one, adult females in one flower.
So one thing that I've heard a few people doing is, since they do like the flowers, all those plants, you guys that are shipping right now in spring, spring might be over by the time this episode airs, but just pop off all the flowers. Pop off the flowers, put them in a plastic bag, zip tie the bag, and you can burn the bag, throw it away, do whatever you got to do, and you just eliminated the chances of you getting a shipment sent back to you, or it's opened up at customs on another side of the world, and now you're getting into other problems, because that's something that they got to control. I also think it's so interesting how they've created products that can kill an insect but don't harm the plant. That's so cool too, because the plant doesn't have, I guess, the same organisms that the bug does. I'm not a scientist. I'm trying here. They can create products that will go after the insect, but it won't harm the plant. And you just think about that. Like, guys, we use these products, and it's like, hey, yeah, let me get a jug of this, a jug of that, give me a pallet of this, and it's just normal. Let's go apply it and let's go, because we're on our day-to-day as growers. The same thing with landscapers. You see a pretty healthy plant, and you don't think much of it. It's just, hey, that one looks beautiful. That's what I need for my client. That's what's going to make me shine. And let's go, because that's the thought process of us. But when you really dive deeper, there's just so much more that interests, at least me in this world that we're in, that there's people like what made you want to go and study soil? Where were you when you wanted to go study soil? Like, what made you do that?
Yeah,
because that's not normal. People don't want to do that.
No, it's not. It comes down to, and I'm sure you can relate to this too. When you come across a good teacher.
Okay.
So
a good influence.
A good influence. So what happened was I had started pre-medicine. I took a soil science course as an elective.
And why'd you take that as an elective?
We had to have something outside of medicine.
And out of your choices.
You have to be well-rounded. Yeah, and I thought,
earth.
I just went on
a limb.
I was like, and I did come from an area where in Illinois that was, I had a lot of friends that grew up growing corn, soybean.
Okay.
And so it was big.
So it was background too, that you growing up.
To some degree. And I thought, this seems interesting, and soil science.
Why not learn about soil too?
And so that's where it went in. And so there was this soil microbiologist. His name was Brian Klubeck. Had a big influence. I mean, he was just a great teacher, and made the subject exciting
and pleasant.
And man, it was like a light switch.
Wow.
Turned down, like, wow, this is fascinating. And then the next thing, I started getting more involved in soil chemistry, soil physics. I mean, it's amazing, the whole complex that's going on
Soil.
in the ground, the soil, and it just as the it's the substrate that plants need.
Yeah, and different soils too, and from different parts of the world.
Different soils.
It's a never-ending learning. You never stop learning in that industry, and there's just so much opportunity in the green industry. Like I've said so many times before, and we really do all intertwine with each other. I want you to talk about the Monstera and talk to me about that on the Monstera, that rust. On the thrip convo.
Just another, this one is, I don't know for certain if it's still regulated. It may be, but just like the thrips, this is a brand new rust disease. So rust are caused by fungi. They call it rust because of the description, or I should say the symptom, the expression of the disease looks like kind of like a rusty spot, because it's often on the leaf, on the leaf. So if you look at the backside, the underside of the leaf, often you'll see it can be orangish, yellowish, but ultimately it turns brownish, rust-like in appearance. And so this rust fungus never been reported in the continental United States.
And they're starting to see it here.
And it showed up. And, one of the things about our industry, and I've been on discovery side of new diseases here in South Florida, because what happens is
for a long time.
Oh yeah. So some of these pathogens, when you're talking about microorganisms, some of these rust fungi, they can get into the upper boundaries of the atmosphere, and believe it or not, they can move across continents that way.
Wow.
Which is amazing. I mean, there's the Department of Plant Pathology actually has a faculty member that works for NASA. And is dealing with, it's just like a plant pathologist working for NASA. Pretty cool. But bottom line is our industry, just by the way we move plants, plants go from your nursery probably all over. I don't know where you guys ship to, but people are shipping to Canada, people are shipping to California,
Europe,
people are shipping
Dubai,
all over the world.
Islands.
And so you think about, if you got a plant that has a disease, unfortunately, our industry is very good at spreading things, just not intentionally per se.
And especially here in Miami with 85% of all tropical plants.
100%.
So they're coming from South America. They got to do their due diligence over there. Otherwise, they're just going to bring it all over here. And same thing with other parts of the world, Australia and other things. The plants come from everywhere here to South Florida.
100%. And so what happened is this rust fungus that has been described on Monstera, and my understanding is what's known so far is it's a very limited host range, which is good. Rust are by nature very host specific. And
what does that mean, host specific?
Means that like the rust on Monstera is not going to jump on your poinsettia.
Okay, it won't jump to another plant.
Now it could possibly jump onto something very closely related taxonomically.
Like another philodendron.
It's like some of those ericaceous, the aroid type plants. But my understanding right now is it's very limited. But Monstera deliciosa is one that's definitely and
that's a big plant that a lot of people grow. And a lot of people move. We do it here too. I haven't seen the rust here though.
And that's good. And so the rust, because it's new, one of the things that happens, of course, is if you've got a plant that you've been growing for years and you haven't had to treat it for that disease, this is just now another thing you have to do. Okay. It's going to cost money. So that's one of the reasons, just from an economic standpoint, they want to try to minimize spread, so that it doesn't become a
pandemic for the plants.
Yeah, exactly. And so fortunately, rust diseases are very common. We've got a number of, a lot of the plants we have here in the landscape, Plumeria, Frangipani, if you've ever seen the orange rust that occurs on the leaves, very common rust disease on a common host. But there's others that get rust. Guava on the fruit side is very common.
And it's just a fungus.
It's a fungus. It's a leaf spot.
It comes in the wind, and that's how it arrives.
It's exactly
It's not from
right.
overwatering or anything like
No.
that for the people that might be thinking that.
No, these microscopic spores, they spread in the wind, and then they land on the leaf surface, and they happen to like the underside of the leaf, and they infect, and then they cause, the infection process starts to cause spotting.
So it's one little drop that lands, and then from there it starts opening up and just
starts causing leaf spot. They're like big leaves. But fortunately, we have some very effective fungicides. And, one of the things, ultimately it's best for disease across the board to treat preventatively.
Mm-hmm.
When you're growing anything on a large scale, you don't want that disease to come into your nursery. So it's best to just make informed decisions, set up a program where you can prevent it from coming.
Yeah, which is spraying every other week.
Spraying every other week. And, there's anything from Heritage to Pageant to Broadform to Mural. Those are these there's 2 different actives in each one of those products. Well, actually, Heritage is a standalone. But those actives are very effective on rust. Harrell's has our Protect Max line. We have Azoxy SC. We have a product called Tebuconazole. One of the neat things, just as an aside, with Harrell's before my time is when they've brought these fungicides on, they've made it very simple with the naming. Some of the active ingredients, they have these names that sometimes may be hard to remember or pronounce. Mm-hmm. What Harrell's did is they named the product after the active ingredient.
Okay.
So, for example, there's a fungicide called Banner Max. It's got propiconazole. Harrell's has that fungicide, and it's called propiconazole. And so we also have a product there's a fungicide out there that was called Torque. And it has tebuconazole.
Okay.
We have our own version. It's called tebuconazole.
Okay.
So we make it easy.
Yeah, easier.
And easier, to
distinguish.
Yep.
And as you guys go using the products, you're gonna remember what they are, and I'm sure you'll take a picture. I don't know. I'm a picture type of guy. I like to take pictures of stuff to remember. Sure. It's faster than writing down, if I can.
Sure.
So you can always take a picture of the label. That's what I like to do. Sometimes to the labels, if you have a product that you bought 2.5 gallons, and you're not gonna use it all. The label over time, if it's sitting in the sun or rain or whatever, it could just fall apart, even though they're covered with plastic. But it could happen, and then you lost it. So it's always good to take pictures. And you can get them online, too, if that happened.
Absolutely. In today's day and age, with everybody having
cell phones,
it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You can find the labels right online. And there's just so much, guys. These guys offer delivery nationwide. Go on their website to find your local provider, and it's actually going to be a Harrell store. And I know that they sell their products, and they also sell other products as well from other manufacturers, which is great. And they do a great job at everything. And they're a family-orientated, God-fearing, together industry. Before we leave, I have actually 2 questions for you. We told people on Instagram, for those of you guys that don't follow us on Instagram, jump on Instagram and follow us, the Plant Movement Podcast. So we told them that Harrell's was going to be coming. We told them who you were, and we asked if they had any questions for you. Because what we do here, this is for the green industry. So we want the green industry to be involved. What was the question, Eddie?
Is there anything fertilizer companies are doing to reduce the nitrates leaching into waterways?
That's a great question. And so one of the things that, again, the whole polyon, where the controlled release based on temperature, it's a remarkable way to reduce leaching of any kind of leaching of nitrates into the groundwater, because again, it's a controlled release, and it's releasing upon plant availability, which is as the temperature increases. So you get that metered amount of fertilizer, so you're not getting
all of it,
pollutants into the groundwater. Yeah. So that itself is that's huge from an environmental standpoint.
Good question. So the question is, what would you have to say to anyone that, let's say, is thinking about taking up to be a pathologist, someone that's on the borderline of, do we jump in and go or do I not? what would you have to say to them now, going through a career now of over 30 years of being graduated?
That's a great question. So there's, it's not an easy answer, but I can tell you that, I think I just got lucky. But one of the things you really got to think about, because of the investment when you go to school, unless you're on a full ride scholarship or what, that it's a significant investment. And so then the decision comes to, you first and foremost, you want to do something that you're passionate about, because if you're passionate and it interests you, you're going to be good at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And like me, when I went in and I just the whole soil science thing opened the door, and then when I started learning more and I became just super interested in microorganisms and interaction in soil, and then the whole plant pathology side was like fascinating to me, and that's where I fell in to becoming a plant pathologist. But you have to think about, where are you going to be able to fit in the standpoint of it's not about making money, but you want to have a good, you want to be able to have a quality life.
Yeah, of course.
And so you have to really kind of find a side that's going to fit into the business side of things, and that's where like sales is so important, because if we didn't have sales, we wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
And it's all about, unfortunately, it's all about money.
Yeah.
And so what my recommendation is to make sure that you're going on a career path where that you're going to fit into what's happening here and now and what's happening in the future, to where you're going to be successful. And one thing I'll just point out in my world is I'm considered an applied plant pathologist, because I do work with growers and I do like application work, like it's here and now. But then on the whole other side is the basic scientists, where they're in the discovery phase. Everything, all of that's important. We are actually, the number of applied plant pathologists that are out there today is dwindling. And I guess maybe that's good for me, because I don't have as much competition for what I do. But at the same time, it's I think we're gonna need plant pathologists, applied plant pathologists going forward.
I would say that it's, I guess it's good for you in today's day and age, but it's bad at the end of the day, because I feel like the more people that are like-minded in a room together or working on one project together, I feel like it can be so much more powerful for the the outcome at the end of it, because great minds don't all think alike. And you can have somebody that can just figure it out in one section of it, and someone else figures out something else, and together combined something great happens.
Absolutely.
So you heard what he said, guys. There's not too many plant pathologists in line to take his job. So if you guys, there's just so many things that you can do, guys, and that's just one of them. And I just wanted to ask you about it, because from a class, it's taken you all the way here now, working for Harrell's and being a part of just such a great company and just such a great everything, and doing something positive for us, guys. Without them, we don't have a plant industry, without the scientists and the doctors and the people that study this, because it's very, very true. I want to thank you so much for coming down here. I want to thank Harrell's. I want to thank Jack Harrell's Jr. the third. What was his nickname?
J3.
Just want to thank you guys just for the opportunity to have him come and sit down and chat with us. You are such an intelligent person. We are blessed to have had you on. We're glad that you took the career path you did, because it brought you here to us today. And that's what's fun about life.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity.
We talk some plants today.
Yeah.
Guys, all the information is going to be down in the link in the bio below. You can also go to harrolds.com, and you can check out everything they do. They have great videos there, too, that I spent some time watching today and just going through all the products that they have. You can also find what store is closest to you. So you can go there, make friends with your rep, go say what's up, say hello, go open an account, and let them know that you watched the Plant Movement Podcast episode. We love you guys. Stay tuned. God bless you. And you'll see us on the next one. God bless. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this edition of The Plant Movement. Willie and Eddie invite you to connect with them on Instagram at both the Plant Movement Podcast and A's Ornamental Nursery. Those links are in the show description. Please leave us a well-worded 5-star review on Apple Podcasts to help others find the show. And remember to tap the follow button so that you'll be notified when the next edition of The Plant Movement is available.